couple of days ago I went out to do some photography in some woodlands, and it's down by a lake, and I learned a little lesson once again. You've all heard of the idea that when you go out taking photographs, the most important thing is you've got to have a strong intent. And I did on that day, as I normally do, and I wanted to go take photos of the trees. It's March. And the trees are bare of leaves. What I had noticed is that they had these beautiful ivy leaves on the actual trunks. And you know, if you find a set of trees that look very nice and create maybe a square composition or a long composition, it can be something very nice. It's March, and so it's a bit dodgy with the light, but there was light coming in and hitting those leaves, and I was just determined to get a shot on them. Nevertheless, that didn't happen. I went down to the lake, and when I got there, I couldn't believe it. It was afternoon. It was really beautiful water. It was sort of calm with a few ripples on it, and there was mist in the distance. And as you can see, that there is this peninsula, which is where the forest is. And it was there in the distance in the mist, and I couldn't resist it. And I only spent about 15 minutes there, but just standing and observing it. Looking at it, letting it come in and asking myself, is there a photo there? I'm pretty sure. I photographed this lake before, but in much more summer-like conditions, and it's a totally different shot. But this time I took the shot and it was gorgeous. There was this, what I think is a raft out in the middle there. It's generally always there. And it was a single little motive in the middle of the water with the misty, hilly looking peninsula in the background there. The lake is called Müggelsee. It's southeast of Berlin. It doesn't take me long to get down there. I live right in the middle of the city. Great place to go, and honestly it's a contrast to the noise of the city, to the hustle and bustle of town life and all the rest of it. I love the street photography, but boy, when I get down there, I'm presented with a challenge which I find really positive. Part of the challenge that you digital cameras, that if you like, you can walk around and just be taking shots all the time. People do that and they come back and they've got themselves about 600 shots after 3 hours out there. And then they go through them and sift through them, and it takes them bloody hours. But in there somewhere, there's going to be the happy accident, there's going to be the great shot or the shot that is good for them, and they take it and say, that's my photography. But much better is to always go out with an intention and build on that intention. With me, for example, I'm a very visual thinker, and I can think very, very clearly visually. And I have noticed that when I'm doing photography, I don't have any words in my mind. I just feel it, and I can tell where the light is, and I'm watching where the light is coming from, really, even on a day that is overcast. It's really important to understand that. And, you know, one of the biggest takeaways I got from working with the lake the other day was the fact that is to do what a painter would do, and that is, don't just start taking shots. It's not street photography. It won't go away. What I see there is what is there for the next few minutes. You know, the light changes. If it's a summertime, the sun can often be the light can be changing quite rapidly. But I take my time and I take a look and I start studying the landscape. It's big, it's complex. And when I got down to the woods later, it even became more complex. And honestly, I find it interesting, intriguing, and fun, trying to figure out, a bit like Sherlock Holmes, trying to figure out all this wood. Man, there's wood, there's no leaves, there are a few trees with the ivy on them, and I see a composition, but it's as if I'm looking for the lines, but it's so complex. But I know this is how our brains work. They start to make sense of what we're looking at. We have to do that. And so we naturally use maybe the golden mean. When I was at art school, I was always told by professors who were a lot more experienced than me that the golden mean, you don't have to think about it. It's there. It's part of our brain. It's how it functions. And we look at things and we want to make sense of them. And so what we do as photographers is we will naturally start to build a composition. And I think this is the takeaway, is really allow yourself the time to build the composition of what you're looking at. You know, I do understand, you know, if you're on the street and you're doing street photography, you've got to make a snap decision and boom, take the shot, and you get it or not, because it comes and goes very rapidly within a split second. If you're out in the countryside and doing landscape photography, if you're doing water photography like I was, then, you know, the light is the only thing that's going to change, and the weather might change, but that's not going to happen within 2 seconds flat generally. And the point is, you've got time to look around and look at where the light is coming from. But even when you're doing it consciously, a hell of a lot is happening unconsciously, and that is your brain is building up the idea of, now I see the composition, now I understand the light, now I understand where the shadow is, and this block of shadow, it shouldn't be in my photo. I need to get it out because it destroys it. It creates imbalance. And, you know, a lot of the time for composition, we're looking for balance. We like that in life. In all aspects of life, we're always looking for the balance that makes us feel secure and safe and happy. And when it comes to photography, we're looking for the balance of a composition which makes us feel pleasant and enjoyable, and we see the world is in order in our photos. Anyway, that was the main thing, is take time to look at your motive and ask yourself visual questions about it, and allow your brain to just to sop it all up and basically come to the conclusion where it goes, aha, there it is, there's my composition. I do this and it seems to work. You know, I love street photography, and I've done a lot more than that, and portrait photography, than I have landscape. And it's because I live in Berlin, it's all flat lands around me. And for a long time, years, I was always wishing I could go and photograph mountains, but I can't get away all the time to do that. But then I've decided recently, what I'm going to do is work with what I got, and that is flat lands, trees, there's fields, there's all types of landscapes. Of course, if I go out into the countryside where people farm, I'm going to see different types of colours of plants and crops, and that's going to be interesting too. As soon as you do that, your intentions start to develop more. And finally, if you're a person who is just starting photography or thinking about it, all I can say is that you're probably looking for a hobby, or you're probably looking for a pastime that is going to buck your life up a bit. And I can really, totally, absolutely recommend that you do it, because all I can possibly say, and I think every other photographer, whether they're professional or amateur photographers, I think you would find that they all agree that it brings a ton of joy into your life. And this is what we're all looking for. And it gives you a very realistic mission to do, which you can do every day. So long as you've got some spare time, you can say, right, I'm going to grab my camera, get out the house, and I'm going to go and take photos. And one of the wonderful things about photography is, and I love this, in these days where life is very commercial and we're all consumers and we go to the shop, shopping, come home, cook, eat, go to bed, sleep, go to work, blah, and it goes on. What I love about it is when I can walk out the door and I go out into the city or the countryside, and I don't even know whether I'm going to find something, but I come back, and if I've taken 20 shots or if I've taken 200, if I come back with one shot that pleases me and makes me go, wow, look at that, honestly, it's all worth it. And sometimes I come back with 3 or 4, which I like very much. I have a high standard for myself because I think it's quite possible to improve. And that is my final little message, apart from the fact that if you've watched this far, maybe you like what you're watching. I hope you like the photos. I hope you learn something from what I say and from what you can see in my photos. If you've got any comments or questions, put them in the comments and I'll answer. Oh, thanks a lot. Click a like or whatever it is on YouTube, and that would be very helpful and nice as well.